Okay, everybody, welcome, Cameron Parish Police Jury's, agenda meeting, morning session, Monday, July 1st, 10 a.m. Mr. Mike, lead us in the pledge. All right, P-Card Group, Mr. Ryan Boyack is here with us today.
Yes, sir. Good morning, members. My name is David Koch with the P-Card Group. We are fortunate to represent the parish on the state and federal level through the governmental affairs and lobbying work that we do. If it's okay with y'all, I may defer to Representative Boyack just being the member. He, certainly I want to be respectful of his time. I know he'll probably touch on a lot of the same things, both the funding we received, the session, some of the legislation that's obviously pertinent to the parish. But Representative, you want to?
Thank you, David. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's just going to save me a little bit of time for correcting whatever David was going to misrepresent to you. So it's probably more efficient this way, even though you probably don't believe that. Look, this is a new term. You got a new governor, new cabinet members, new appointees, a new speaker, a new Senate president. And for us as members, we have new committee assignments. And so last term, I was fortunate enough as a freshman member to serve as vice chairman of the Natural Resource Committee. I served on the Ways and Means Committee, which was the Capital Outlay Committee and the Tax Committee. And then on Ag, which was important. I feel those three committee assignments were important to our area and District 47 from the Vermilion River to Texas. This year, I was fortunate enough to be tasked by the speaker to chair Transportation Committee. I'm not sure the last time someone from our area chaired Transportation or why someone would want to chair Transportation. You get the alerts from Danny. And it's not just one asset only in our parish. It's all over. I'm getting calls about culvert maintenance in Minden, okay? Got out of church on Sunday and realized that the Mermentau River Bridge was out. And so Father said, well, if something happens to them people that couldn't make it to church, their soul's on your conscience, just to let you know. I said, well, that's a good way to start a Sunday. Have a priest tell you that not only are you answering for yourself, but you answer for everybody else too. We deal with more than just roads and bridges on transportation. We deal with statewide flood control, the ports, the levee boards, all the rail, airports, municipal airports, all of those items come before Transportation Committee. And so we have a wide range of items that we have to deal with. Outside of being appointed chairman of Transportation, I also serve on the Joint Capital Outlay Committee. That's where all the state funding goes. You review the project list and set criteria for the state. I serve on the Select Committee for Disaster Recovery. I serve on the Water Sector Commission, where we've handed out about $600 million worth of projects that are going to improve water quality across the state. I'm one of 5 representatives that are on that commission. And then finally, I serve on the National Energy Council as an executive board member. So we have 2 different countries, Canadian provinces and the United States, that have energy producing states. We each have 2 appointees that go to quarterly meetings and discuss energy policy for our particular region. And so I was very honored to be chosen to represent Louisiana on the National Energy Council. Getting to session, we had 1,491 bills filed. Basically, we've been in session since January 8th. But just in this regular session, just from March to June, we had 982 House bills, 509 Senate bills, 42 constitutional amendments, 771 resolutions, and study groups. That's not counting amendments in committee hearings on both sides, amendments on the floor. So it's just a lot for us to keep up with sometimes. So it's good that you have governmental affairs folks that could help move your priorities, because not only do we have to worry about our own bills, you also worry about other people's bills and what they're trying to do, pro and cons for your area. I filed 4 bills that I'll just note briefly and then gladly entertain any questions. House Bill 738 is a reorganization of the Department of Transportation and Development. This was supposed to be a 5-year renewal. What we did was we worked with the governor's office and determined that it would be best if we reestablished the department for a 1-year period and allow us to go back and review what administrative policies we can change. What structurally do we need to do to cause more improvements across the state? That could be road and bridge maintenance, that could be permits for culverts, driveways. I mean, we have so many different issues that we needed to address. Ferries, pontoon bridges, take your pick. And so we're trying to develop a study between now and October to work through how do we reorganize the department? How do we show improvements for the people of this state? For example, one thing we're looking at is a permitting dashboard. If you're trying to get a load permit to cross the Mermentau River Bridge, right now it's a paper trail. You're sending everything in, hard copy. We want to develop a dashboard where you can see the day that permit was submitted, who it went to, what items are still being omitted or that you need to submit, just so it's full transparency from the department's perspective and us as constituents of the state. I carried House Concurrent Resolution 25, which is the CPRA, the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority fiscal year annual plan. That is the single largest coastal investment in the history of the state. That's $1.7 billion in coastal projects. I was honored to have that piece of legislation with my name on it on behalf of people in Southwest Louisiana. Not a lot of times do we get talked about on coastal. We just don't have the population that you got in New Orleans, Houma, even in Plaquemine Parish. And so for us to have, to be honored with the annual plan, having a Southwest delegation member, I was very proud of that. House Bill 7 amended state law to allow us to add 1 member to the South Cameron Waterworks Consolidation District. State law said we can only have 5 members. To have adequate and equal representation amongst those 3 communities, at your request, we filed that bill. That bill was passed to have 2 members for each community. It's interesting, even something as like a cost savings measure, you still get ridiculed in local and municipal committee because you're changing state law, which says you can only have 5. So really, some people view it as growing government, even though you just get through explaining to them, okay, listen, we went from 15 to 6. And I went to South Cameron, but 15 is bigger than 6, and I think it is wherever y'all went. You still have some explaining to do at times. And then I had House Bill 163, which allowed for insurance adjustments for the sheriff's, for his department. They've formed their own insurance. So this addressed their investment and their board makeup. I'm going to go ahead and hit on some of our projects just to walk through. Over the last 4 years, we've received $15 million in state cash to do breakwater projects along the coast. That's been critical for us. We also had $350,000 for the Marshall Street pumps. We all know the issues we have on Marshall Street from time to time, even just with high tide or even with southeast winds. The North Cameron EOC, that was a $2 million cash appropriation. The ferry project is moving along, and I can address where we are with that project, but that was $47 million that we didn't put up any local match. That was state and federal money that we went and fought for and obtained to fund those projects. You were awarded $15 million in water sector improvements. That is the largest state award that you could qualify for. And so I was proud that Cameron was able to pull $15 million out of that pocket of money. And then the Mermentau watershed basin, that $25 million, that funding was originally appropriated for the Baton Rouge area following the August 2016 flood. We went and made a case to get that money moved to Southwest Louisiana, so we were proud to get that done. In this past session, Cameron Parish was awarded $500,000 in cash for shoreline protection projects. I'm aware of an issue at Beach Prong where it looks like the gap at Beach Prong is getting closer and closer to Hog Bayou, and you got some folks that are nervous about the Gulf reaching Hog Bayou. All those projects they've been putting in back there, those burn projects, you just have salinities just running roughshod all over south of 82. And so any funding we can get to get that moving is something that we felt was a priority. The parish was awarded $300,000 for improvements on Highway 27. That's north of Kelso Bayou. That's in cash. That requires no state match. No local match, no parish match. The North Cameron EOC, it was my understanding that bids came in and there was a $250,000 shortfall. We were able to get $250,000 in cash through the budget to put on that project to not cause you to pull more funding from the general fund. So that should, if my understanding is correct, that should fully fund that project. The last $21 million of the Cameron Ferry, that was appropriated this year. The first boat should be here next April. And if you would like to go and tour and see what they're doing in Berg, Louisiana, it's amazing to see the progress that Louisiana company is doing to build out this infrastructure that we so desperately need on our end. East Creole Highway has $2.1 million for overlay, and that's going to be from Shinya Pardue back to I'm going to still say the red light just because I'm a glutton for punishment, to the red light in Creole. I'm going to never turn loose of that. Highway 82 in Grand Chenier, from Dyson Road back to the other end of North Island Road. That road has been in desperate need of some improvements since before Rita. And in fact, one of the projects started after Rita started at the Mermentau River Bridge and stopped by Mr. Glenn Duddleston's house. And what we're trying to do is just finish off that stretch of road. Mr. Dager, it holds water. You had to drive it two times a day. And so for a public safety issue, especially at nighttime when locals, much less strangers, are driving in that area, we all know it's not well lit, there's ponding on the road, and it's amazing something hasn't happened. And thank the good Lord that we haven't had issues out there. But that's going to be $8 million to re-overlay that entire stretch of Highway 82. And then Highway 397, $3 million also, that's all in cash in capital outlay. We have some other projects that are moving down the line. We have Highway 717 bridge in Klondike. That's going to be a $500 million bridge replacement project. We were wrapping up 2 bridge replacements. This is going to be a third, and I know Mr. Watson probably caused some issues from time to time and inconveniences, but we just gotta, we gotta take our time with it and beg the people for some patience, because that's the only way we're gonna get it. That's the only way we're gonna get it fixed. We have Highway 385 from Cameron to Black Bayou, $1.2 million. $5.3 million in improvements for the Mermentau River Bridge. This is the second phase. We've already done $4 million worth of work that was related to Laura. This second $5 million pot is just to kind of revamp it and try to get some more useful life out of the bridge. Superior Bridge, we have a replacement project that is set for Superior Bridge. Right now we have $83 million that the state is appropriating for that project. We know what that track looked like when Superior Bridge was out. The folks from Vermilion side or Lafayette that like to go fish at Rockefeller, they're driving around. It's a public fishing ground, it's recreational, and when that bridge was down, Poor Aunt Time and Pecan Island Food Store, so it wasn't just impacts to recreational fishermen. A lot of people like to be upset about that, but you have local businesses that was their livelihood last June and July. To have that shut down, even for just that 6-week time frame, was detrimental. School had just let out, and it was in their prime time. So to have the state address that as a priority, I thought was good for us. Kelso Bayou has $6 million in rehab. It's in planning right now. So we have time to work through that process. And the Grand Lake Pontoon Bridge and the Black Bayou replacement, there's $65 million total between those two that we're going to continue to work through design with the department. And with that, I'm going to stop and entertain any questions that the jury may have. I could keep on into other things, but I figured it's probably best if I just stop now.
Ryan, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Hackberry Johnson Body for your work on the Kelso. We see in action, we haven't saw it in a long time, so thank you. And I know we talk often about our goals and make sure we're in line, but thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And just for the record, the jury did hold meetings that it made it very clear to the department what your priorities were for your areas. And so it does help when you establish those open lines of communication. It shows that it's not just me dreaming up an idea. They heard from you directly as priorities. And so I think it's a team effort. We still got a long ways to go, but it's progress nonetheless. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
We've talked to DOTD about armoring the roads in certain spots. You spend a lot of money repairing these roads. We need to make sure we take care of that. Their comment was something similar to we're reactive, not proactive, due to the budget. Mm-hmm. So my point being is I like to identify those and push that project a little bit harder, because the roads we're talking about are our only way in and out of this parish, especially in a hurricane. We need to evacuate. We don't need to have a road that we can't travel. So.
Yeah, Ms. McGee, I think we'll be more than open and willing to maybe progress those conversations a little bit more than we have in the past. I know there were some issues with transporting some infrastructure. I think there may be some opportunities to partner with some private entities that may have access to concrete piles and other forms of riprap, regardless of what that may be. And we may need the department to be more open-minded on how that's placed, the timing for when that's placed. I think we just need to walk through what the issues are from the department's perspective, and then where our gaps are. If we can identify materials that can go out there, number one, and get the department to approve those materials being placed. If we got to walk through, I think we got some local contractors that can help us move some materials and have it placed where it needs to be. And so if we can get past the material list being approved after we identify those materials, and then work through permitting loads and how we get it out there and how it's placed and who's placing it, I'll be glad to work with you on that. I think we need to sit down and make sure the department is very clear with where their hangups are, because we don't want to assume that we know where the hiccups are at this point. We'll sit down with them and make sure we're very clear from day one on where the gaps are.
Right.
Communication-wise.
And in their defense, I know their budget stretched.
Yes, sir.
So I understand that. Thank you for anything you do for us.
Mr. Ryan, the Grand Chenier Road, would you happen to have a start date? I know I've been getting a lot of questions and concerns on that.
Yes. So we got excited last year. The survey crews were out there, and there was flagging everywhere. And yeah, just for the record, my grandpa lives on that road, and so he asked me. He said, "Bob, I thought that was starting in December of last year." He said, "That was 2023, I believe." I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, they letting it July 1st." And he said, 2024 or 2025? He said, "You already caught me on a year, so I'm going to ask you." I said, "No." So I have it in writing that the bids should be let this week. And so with inflation, the project costs and the estimates that we had a year or so ago, we were just coming up short on every project. And so the quantities on projects that were ahead of 82 on the list, they took precedent. And so money was pulled from the future projects to fully construct the ongoing project. And so that $7 million that we went and got this session, that was to fully fund the entire overlay project, because there was a gap there. They had pulled some money. Because the Lake Charles DOTD office, I think they have 6 or 7 other parishes. And so not only are we competing statewide, once the money is appropriated here to either buy a piece of equipment, a pothole patcher or a paver or a mini excavator, whatever that piece of equipment is, once we get it funded and get it in the district, well, then we compete with other parishes to have access to the asset. And so, they will be let this week, and so hopefully, for my sake, we better have some asphalt flying before Christmas. I might not get good President grant.
I certainly appreciate that, Mr. Ryan.
Yes, sir.
I also, saying one, Mr. Ryan, north of Kelso by being basically the only evacuation route
Yes,
out of there without having to cross a ferry or.
Right. And I think that, look, staff's gonna have to correct me because my memory is not as good as it used to be, and plus it's their job to keep track of this. When's the first time we applied for North LA 27 improvements in Calvert Outlay? 2016. So we've tried to flag it as often as we could, we being the parish and me as a legislator, and never got traction. And I think earlier this year, it helped when jurors go and sit down, and then we had the issue of the high tides. And so at one point, it was, well, send me pictures. That was coming from the Lake Charles office, send me pictures. And so my response to Mr. Fuel was, I need pictures. Well, then I started getting some pictures. APLC started calling me and everything else. So I think we've identified that there's a problem. It's plain as day. 2 weeks ago, they reached out with an initial scope to kind of get the worst part addressed. And I think last week they were supposed to be out there. Now, I didn't go and drive on it to see, but the district office shifted some of their own funding in-house and sent their own guys out there to go and try to help slow it down. And they wanted to elevate the shoulders and kind of fortify the shoulders of the road.
Armor the shoulder.
Yes, sir. And so this 300,000, I think that's a good starting point, was that initial 50,000 in their own funding. So if we can get that 300,000 working with them after what they already know, they did their traffic count, they did some saw borings out there. So I think they have a good understanding now compared to where we were, let's say, a year ago. That they're more motivated for sure.
Yeah, and Ryan, on the same note, I mean, hats off to them guys in Lake Charles. They really have been very cooperative and they're willing to help. I mean, they've helped a lot, and like you said, building that relationship. They're not looking at their phone saying who's microfueling anymore. So
Yes.
They are doing great work.
Now, you did say you had funding for that. You know when that might be available?
It's available now. As soon as your staff executes the cooperative endeavor agreements, that is a cash appropriation. There is no local match required. And so none of our projects were vetoed by the governor at the end of June. So typically 30 to 60 days, the Department of Treasury will reach out to your staff. Ms. Carroll will have to put in an agenda item so Mr. Rana can execute those documents on behalf of the jury. Typically the money, I would say 90 to 120 days, being realistic from, the budget being adopted. So say July 1, you got 90 to 120 days by the time all the paperwork's done and the checks are cut.
And by the time that they get the engineering and everything ready, we're probably looking first of the year.
Well, you get burned sometimes given timelines, as evident from my Highway 82 discussion earlier. But I'll say this, they've already basically done a demo project out there. The data gathering and the scope of work and the planning effort, they've already completed, okay? And so they've done a 400 to 600 linear foot stretch, and they've identified a 2,000 linear foot stretch already, but they didn't have the funding for it.
Correct.
So I think the funding is, for once, the funding is trailing the planning effort. So the research and data gathering, to my knowledge, has been completed. So I don't think we should be waiting too long to see some action out there.
Good.
Yes.
So Ryan, has the Lake Charles office been notified that this funding has been there yet?
I have a meeting set up with Mr. Woods to address a separate issue on the 9th of July. If they are not made aware from headquarters that the funding is coming, they will be by the 9th. Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? And Mr. Ryan, thank you again for everything you do to help.
And I just want to say thank you for your service. It's an honor to represent Cameron in the legislature. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but you getting it too. You understand. Public service is just that. You never off the clock. And so I appreciate your willingness to serve. Reach out anytime, any questions you have. We all in this together. So look forward to working with y'all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, bud.
Thank y'all guys. I hope y'all don't mind me letting Ryan go first. It's a little Bobby in 101. But he did a great job touching on a lot of the funding that was received this session, both for the EOC, the ferry, shoreline protection, Highway 27. In addition to the $500,000 that was included for the shoreline protection from the state, we received news from Senator John Kennedy's office at the federal level that he submitted another $20 million, I believe, for those breakwater projects to be split between Cameron and Vermillion. That is not finalized at this time. It's still being worked out through Congress. Those bills are still being vetted and negotiated, but that's promising. Another $20 million hopefully coming from the feds. In addition to some of the bills that Representative Booyock touched on, I would also like to include a bill that Senator Abraham passed. The toll money that's going to be coming from the Calcasieu River Bridge in Lake Charles. He passed a piece of legislation that any of the money or a portion of the money that's going to be received from the state can be split between the 5 parish region of Southwest Louisiana. That's going to be Allen, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, and Jeff Davis. And that can be used for infrastructure projects throughout the parish. I think that's going to be a huge source of revenue as the bridge is constructed and we start receiving tolls and recognizing that money. So that's a bill that we certainly want to keep our eye on and be sure to track. Finally, I wanted to mention on the capital outlay projects, certainly working with Katie and the team, the projects that were submitted for this past session were the previous administrations. Now that, certainly y'all are in office and we look forward to working with y'all this term, we'd like to probably set something up, I think this fall before the November 1st deadline, where we actually have to submit those projects, see, let's get our priorities in order, let's see what we want to go after this session, and really get some good highlighted projects laid out, given, Representative Booyock's position as Chairman of Transportation, Senator Abraham, certainly advocating for us in the Senate. But that would be one recommendation that I would make just moving forward. Again, Ryan did a great job on the update. I kind of will keep it brief and short and certainly entertain any questions y'all may have as well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Question, yeah?
All right, thank y'all guys.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I don't see us on here, but is Jeff Davis going to talk this morning?
Not that I'm aware.
Bo, you want to give us an update on the new High Lines?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Let me interrupt.
Morning.
Morning.
So we started construction. They started the intercoastal crossing, putting up poles on the south side of the road. They are finished with the bore underneath the intercoastal and under the Mermentau Highway. They're moving to start and to prepare for the bore on the Calcasieu River. We will have crews working on Miami, basically from Creole and from the intercoastal together towards each other. They're putting in foundations. They're going to start putting poles up. I believe July 8th, the helicopter is going to be here to start placing poles on Miami. They're working south from the S-curve in Sweet Lake, and we're about to have another crew also starting in about the Homewood area, working south on Sweet Lake. Once from Sweet Lake all the way down to Creole is finished, they're planning to move on to do the water district from Creole to Oak Grove. And then we'll be moving towards Mishwish and doing the Mishwish Granchinier area.
Okay. You know when they'd be on the other side of the river?
No, probably next year, beginning of next year.
Y'all talked about one time having several contractors doing it at one time, so I was just wondering if they were going to be moved.
Right. So we've got a substation contractor and a transmission contractor. Transmission contractor's working on mobilizing up to 4 crews right now. By the end of July, they'll probably have all 4 crews working on this side of the river. But it'll take them probably till the end of this year before they go over to the west side.
Okay.
Jeff, the EP Bro is finished with all of the dirt work for all of the substations except Sturley's. but they got thoroughly started last week. They're redoing their designs because we had some test piles done to get us a better idea on the geotech and the foundations. And they're just about done with all the test piles, so we're revising our foundation designs, and they're gonna get started on the substations as well.
How are we looking as far as staying on schedule? Are we ahead, behind?
We're behind, but we still anticipate being all off the generators by that June 2025. We won't be finished with the project by the end, but the critical path is to be off of the generators. So we're still hoping that will be achievable.
Yeah.
We still got some work to do with Cameron LNG to finish up that last substation. It's a new permit, it's a new environmental, so it's taking longer to get through FEMA, but we'll be able to get everything hot and working in the meantime.
I know we certainly appreciate seeing the poles going up and everything y'all doing to beef up the infrastructure. But I know I've been seeing, a lot of people comment and call. They're concerned about the long wait times, and me just being observant and being in the construction, maybe we could kind of tell the public that the long wait times, from what I'm understanding, from seeing what y'all have going on, is when y'all unloading the poles off the trucks. I'm sure y'all not gonna want, traffic coming anyway while y'all doing that. And I think that's their big concern, but I mean, it's, to me, it's part of the process, and it's just something we're gonna have to bear through.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, we're trying to limit those road closures and the length of them to help everybody get through. But they're big poles, so it takes us some time to get everything off. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, and we appreciate it.
Yep. So we just ask everybody to keep working with us and be patient. But you're gonna see a lot of action here within the next month or two for sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, bud.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, Mr. Ryan? Okay. Good.
Oh, okay.
I have a question on the house.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Sorry. All right, Mr. Craig Broussard.
Thank you. My name is Craig Broussard. I'm a longtime resident of Holly Beach. And I'm here to inform and invite y'all to this year's festivities for Independence Day. As you know, Independence Day is on Thursday. We annually have a festival going on with cultivating and fireworks. And this year, since the 4th landed on Thursday, we're gonna move the festivities to Saturday to allow more participation. And I wanna personally invite all of y'all. There's several people, I'll go through it a little bit more. We're gonna start off the day's festivities at 10 a.m. with a ceremony. We've just recently installed 2 30-foot flagpoles that were donated and installed by the residents themselves with no public funding. I'm very proud of it. We got a bunch of, we had residents that all had particular skills that we needed in installing flagpoles, so it was a match made in heaven. So it came together and we got it installed in time for this year's events. So the ceremonies will be at 10 a.m. Afterwards, at 11 o'clock, there will be a parade like we normally do. And it's being led by our Sheriff, Chris Savoy. There'll be music and, throughout the day, but there'll be a band that starts at 6 p.m. And going on to the start of the fireworks, which will be at 9 o'clock. And that'll culminate the festivities. Like I tell folks, there's only a few times I've ever seen traffic jams in Holly Beach, and that's 5 minutes after the fireworks stop. So you'll see about 45 minutes worth of fireworks. We got people coming in from all over the place. It's become, a tradition for a lot of folks. So you'd be surprised who you'll see, sitting in the yards to view the fireworks. They're pretty spectacular. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. All right, Mr. Anthony Terrio.
How y'all doing? I'm Anthony Terrio. I'm a shrimper from here. We had that meeting about the shrimp shop with the ice. I guess never heard any more about it. We see that they're getting their the permits now, so I'm sure the work's going to be starting, before long. I don't know if y'all just don't realize how much this is affecting us, or just don't care. But this conversation got to be brought up sooner or later. Once we go out of business, we're still going to be here. Even if we lose the docks, the boats will be anchored up in the river. We live here. There's nowhere else to go. I just don't know when the conversation is going to be brought up.
Well, we're in contact with you guys. We've been trying to get the ice going.
Sonny, you're our representative, but we talk to you, and then it goes behind closed doors, and you talk to Mark and all them. We know it's a vote. It has to be all of you. All of you have to want to do something or not do something. It's not just you're in my area, because you're in my area and you're doing nothing. So it has to be because it goes behind closed door and nothing gets done. I've lived here my whole life. 30 years I've shrimped here. I don't ever come up here and ask for nothing. I've told Mark I have trip tickets. I have anything you want to see to show you what this is doing. What do you say? You say them ships been coming through here for years. Not them kind of ships, man. You don't realize what it's doing to us, or you don't care. I'm not with Bucky Brigade. I'm not with Fish. I'm with myself. I'm with someone that's lived here for 30 years. Y'all go home. I still live right here. I live right here. There ain't none of y'all live here. There ain't none of y'all face what we face. None of you. Y'all talk a good talk, but you do not live here. You go home. I asked Mark, is it safe for my family to live this close? You know what he said? Well, yeah, as long as nothing goes wrong. But what happens when something goes wrong? I'm telling you, I got trip tickets to prove anything I say. It's the truth. It is destroying what we do. Did I ever say I wanted to stop it? No. But at least got to be brought up and see what can be done. You're just going to put us out of business, and then what? My boat's going to still be here, even if I'm out of business or not. I lived here my whole life. My kids went to school here. This all started for me back when the work started. My wife was a school teacher for 15 years, got in a wreck with a plant worker, broke her back, got put out of work. This has been going on for me for a long time.
Mr. Anthony, when you keep saying we don't go home, I live right down the road.
You don't live close to this plant as me.
Why?
You won't put your family where I'm at.
If I had land here.
No, you won't. Just like every worker. Do you see any worker? You were always taught growing up. You work by where you live. That way you're right there. You don't see nobody trying to buy nothing here to come move here. There's not one worker there that lives right here in this town.
So I'm going to ask you clearly. You keep coming over here and asking what we can do. We're not the one that pulled the trigger on this.
I understand that. But you're not the one that's bringing up no conversation about what it's doing to your town people either.
I asked you. I said, what evidence do you have other than trip
I got it right here, Mark. I'm still carrying it around with me.
Okay, listen. You got trip tickets, Mr. Anthony. I understand how shrimping work. Where do you work at right now? You work at a shrimp shop, right?
No, but I shrimp here.
If you working at a shrimp shop receiving shrimp, I don't think you're shrimping, sir.
You ask any shrimper in this town.
All what I'm going to say is...
I can tell you how much shrimp I bought this year. 100,000 pounds. But you know where most of them come from? The Gulf.
Yep.
Just like when you said, I want to go ride on y'all's boat and see. The only people that showed up to go ride on the boat and see was Bucky Brigade, Fish, and all them people bringing people over there. There ain't none of you showed up.
I ain't got a phone call to go.
And you ain't called nobody to go either.
Every time you call me, I pick up my phone.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You ain't picked up the phone for nobody when people been calling you to see what's going on with the ice and everything else. We just want the conversation to come up. If you're not going to represent us in it, then point us to the right person that will. You know, I mean, you're supposed to speak for the town people,
We've been.
no matter good or bad or what.
Mr. Johnny and Mr. McGee, me and you, us three are on a team to provide services for the shrimpers to help them out. That's correct.
What are you providing?
Ms. McCoy, can you speak on all the work that's been going and all the shortfalls we've been having on this shrimp shop?
Yes, sir, certainly can. So we have met about close to 2.5 times. The staff met privately, and then with the jurors, we met 2 full meetings. What has been going on is, first of all, the ice house, the building itself needed to be repaired. We issued purchase orders for that. We're waiting on the contractor to complete construction. But right now, we're not able to keep the ice house running because of the damage to it. But again, that purchase order was issued about 30 days ago. So construction should be complete within, I would hope, the next few weeks. The second thing was the ice machines we had to fix. We've issued purchase orders for that. We were able to get one machine actually going. The second one needed a few parts. Those parts are on order. We're waiting for the contractor to get those and come in and install it to get that second ice machine running. The third thing, we met with the old operator, which was Tommy Seafood. We made an on-site inspection of all the equipment that he evacuated a few years ago. We inspected it. Tomorrow, we have a team going to meet him to have all of the equipment that we can no longer use hauled directly to Gwinnett Auction, and we're going to auction it off so we can take the proceeds from that and invest it back into the shrimp house. There's some condensers that are over there that we're able to return and get a credit in with our contractor who's fixing the ice machines to help pay for the cost of the ice machines. So far we've spent about $95,000 in fixing the ice machines and the ice house. Long term, what we're looking at is creating, using CDBG funds to build a dock. We just found out from CDBG HUD last Thursday that we're going to be eligible for that funding. The problem with the CDBG funding was that we didn't have any census blocks that were underneath that 50% LMI or over that 50% LMI. So we just found out that we got new data from the census that we're allowed to use. So we have 3 blocks that qualify. One of those blocks is Cameron, so we're going to be able to use some of that disaster funding to build the public docks that the prior jury and this current jury both supported. The application was turned in. We're waiting on CDBG and OCD to approve the application. It should come within the next 2 weeks, and we'll be able to start looking at that project. So as moving forward, if we can get the docks built, we can get the ice machines running, the second one running, and we can get the ice house repaired, we should be able to sell ice out of it to the shrimpers, by the end of the summer is what we're hoping. For now, as just immediate needs, we're going to assign a parish worker as an on-call basis to sell the ice to the shrimpers. Long term, we're looking at adding another ice machine, and then hopefully we could find another operator to come in. We have not stopped looking for an operator to run this Cameron Fisheries building. Right now, we've had, I think, the port has let one person do a tour. They showed some interest, but they said that the building needed some repairs and some renovations. We still haven't received our insurance money. So we're working with about $120,000 right now. We've exhausted $90,000 of it. So unless we get some insurance money or we get our FEMA PW obligated and expanded, we're looking at the only way to fix the Cameron Fisheries building is to either apply for a different grant or allocate some of your general fund dollars to fix it. That's something that the jury has been meeting on, the subcommittee. It's something we'll have to bring to the full jury for approval. But, funding is limited. You only have about $1.2 million a year of unrestricted funds to fund any road and bridge improvement projects. You're talking about animal control. You're talking about shoreline protection. And then you have the Cameron Fisheries. So Funding is limited. That's going to come up in October, and that will be up for the jury to consider on how they're going to allocate funding between all 4 of those needs. So just to circle back to you, though, Mr. Anthony, are you requesting the jury to allocate money to Cameron Fisheries? Are you requesting them to reject the permit that's on? I just want to kind of clarify what your comments are, what
I'm
you're
a
requesting.
fisherman here, Katie, and we deal with all kind of problems, you know, just like the oysters. When I talked to Mark about the oysters, he said, well, y'all dredged oysters, y'all caught all the oysters up, and then you gotta go back to Tongan, and you know, that's far from the truth, you know? So that means that this is stuff that's going on that, you know, has nothing to do with it. Everywhere else in the state of Louisiana, they dredge oysters, everywhere. Not another public reef, lease reef, anywhere. We were the only place that had 7 sacks a day. The only place in the state of Louisiana. So it wasn't being overfished. It was a political thing. You know, some political action took place. And that's where that came in at. But still, where we oystered at, all by the ship channel, all that stuff, you know, it's all gone because of the ships. Okay? Have we had some reefs planted away from there and that is working? Yes. But, I mean, it's just like the dredging that went on over 2 weeks before the season opened, shrimp season opened, 2 dredges were dredging by 9 Mile. You know, but Global Venture put out an article saying that they work with shrimpers and they work with, you know, the community of when the best time to dredge and all this stuff is. I mean, that's far from the truth. You know, I understand a lot of people lie. Bucket Brigade lies, fish lies, whoever. But I'm a fisherman here. You know, I've done this my whole life. And for you to sit there and say that I'm running a shrimp shop, I don't catch shrimp, sir, I catch more shrimp and oysters than anybody else in this town. And I got trip tickets to prove it. You know, I'm not a play fisherman. You know, this is what I do. This is all I do. You know, you could talk about the price and everything else. In 2005, when Hurricane Rita hit, we got 80 cents for shrimp across the board because there were so much. So we've always dealt with prices. I mean, they've been importing shrimp for 20 years. You know, we've always dealt with that too. You know, there's a way to overcome it.
So,
You know, there's a way to overcome everything, but if we don't have no help at all, no one that sits down and gets the full facts and the truth about what, you know, what happens in your town, then how do you keep fishing? How do you keep going on?
Well, you know, Miss Anthony, whether you think it's so or not, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. We've been doing a lot of homework, a lot of research, and a lot of time.
Mark, you told me that y'all dredged all the oysters out, and that's why you're back to Tongan.
No.
I mean,
but
you didn't sit down with me and say, as a fisherman, what do you think the problem was? You know, if that was the case, then why did Claire Monceau go up there to Baton Rouge with us and try to help us fight that?
Hey, look.
Because she seen it was political.
Okay, when I talk, you don't.
Yes.
When you talk, I'm not.
I understand, Mark. I'm sorry. I mean, I do apologize.
Look at me. I've been where you at. I understand it's frustrating, okay? But look, we need solutions, not problems. We had a meeting with the fisheries. The majority of the fisheries said, the fisheries people, you was here, said they're doing good. They just need a place to get rid of the shrimp. I understand your concern. Everybody has different problems, but as a jury and as a whole to help the people, we have to do and help and use our money and what we can do as a jury to help the majority of the people. Are we going to help all of them? In theory, probably not, but we're going to help the most we can with what we got because we're very limited on this. So if you want to get with Miss Katie and we can set up another meeting with all the fisheries, I don't know about the rest of everybody, but I am here to listen and to help, sir. And I am not a fishery biologist or nothing. I just know that when Wildlife and Fisheries says you can't dredge no more and you got a tone, it's usually because dredging is a problem or they're looking to up the VAMP like the redfish. They just downgraded the limit and sizes and that. It's to keep the fish thriving. So obviously there's something not thriving. So maybe they're on to something. You know, it's more parts than just coming to the jury. You know, they got the civil engineers, the one that's dredging the ship channel to make it so deep with the problems. Wildlife and Fisheries. I mean, let's get all these people in one room and talk to them. You know, we listening to you, but there's only so much we could do.
You know,
You
on
know?
the same note, Mr. Terrio, you was talking about, you know, you're the only person being affected. I live in Hackberry.
No, I didn't
We
say I
are-
was the only person being, every shrimper is being affected. Every shrimper has now went and got wildlife and fishery trip tickets, you know, Hackberry is getting all of theirs. No,
And it's
I mean,
not-
we're wanting to get something done, you know. There's one way to prove, you know, something, and so, I mean,
It's not, I just wanna make something clear, it's not just you being affected by this. You know, unfortunately, we are being reactive to these big ships. It was not a proactive approach, I can't disagree with you there. But I do wanna voice one thing. I went to Washington DC, so did Mr. Sonny, and he was the one that brought it up in the middle of the Capitol about armoring the ship channel and trying to put things in place. Unfortunately, government moves as slow as molasses. It's just a fact. But I'm telling you that you're looking at men up here that care about this community, care about Cameron Parish, and we are doing a lot of things. And one thing, just to follow up with Miss Katie, you know, it's not just us up here. The landowner even over there, he said, look guys, I don't care about the lease. I don't care about the lease at all. What I care about is helping these fishermen. And I think with y'all, me, Venture Global, I think we can come up with a solution. And I understand there's a lot of conversation that isn't sitting here in this room, but please do know, and I'm not a lying person, I'm here to speak the truth. Everybody up here is trying to do something to help this. Unfortunately, we can't do it in one day, but our goal is to help y'all.
okay, well, when the ship channel's being dredged, okay, it comes through y'all. Y'all have to sign a permit, okay? They went up there, they dug the levee and started pumping right away. Okay, the levee busted from 66 to 71 is slap full of mud. From Beacon 66 to 71 is slap full of mud because the levee broke and all the mud came back out of it. You know, but who do you call? Because if I call Sonny, because he's my guy, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, this Corps of Engineer, yeah, but it came through y'all. Who is the person, just like what's going on back there at T-Boy, you know, they're putting up the levee so fast right now because something's fixing to go on. I mean, they got went from nothing, no work being done to 5 marsh machines back there. So something is fixing to go on. So what is going to happen there? You know, what happens if that levee breaks and all that settlement gets out in the lake and covers what oysters we have? You know, do I contact you? Do I contact Sonny? What is he going to tell me? He's going to say, they got their permit. It's out of our hands. You know, something has to be in y'all's hands. I mean, you know, I understand this is millions and billions of dollars. But, you know, I mean, we work here too.
No, it's important to
Yeah, Mr. Terrio, this is an ongoing issue. And the whole problem boils down to monies. And we have to find monies to help the shrimpers. We can't bail out every industry, but the shrimpers and the fishermen is near and dear to all of us. And we working on it as much as we can.
Well, I mean, you know, I've done it for 30 years. You know, I can tell you when there's a problem. Just like any industry y'all do or whatever, you know when there's a problem. You know that, you know, like I say, you can blame it on price, you can blame it on whatever, you know. I mean, we were taught, if you got a low price, you should shrimp harder, catch more. You know, it's not that. It's these ships, that plant is affecting us, whether you want to see it or not. You know, somebody's going to see it eventually, you know. We're going to get help eventually, you know. I mean, I'm not taking up for no one, you know, Bucket Brigade, Fish, whoever. But, you know, them people, if you have a question, you know, y'all don't really answer it. But they'll show up at your boat because it's public information with a paper and it wrote on it to give you the answer, you know. I mean, they're quick to tell you, you know, how much tax break they get and how much everything else. But you never see that in the Cameron Pilot. All you'll see is when you owe tax money, though, or you get put in jail here, or whatever. I mean, you know, it makes no sense. None.
So, Mr.
Question, guys?
Mr. Anthony, just to clarify, you know, the first meeting that we had with all the fishers, the 2 things that everyone said was they need to be able to buy ice and a place to park their boat. Are you asking for something extra from that? Do you want us to meet and help you draft a resolution or do like a petition to a certain industry? I mean, I'm not really sure what you're requesting today besides those two things, because that's what we've been working on as a
I
jury.
mean,
'cause that's
Katie,
what we
this
were-
started April the 1st. I mean, shrimp season been open a long time. I mean, if we were still waiting on y'all for that, we'd be, I mean, where do you think, where would we be at? I mean, you know, we're past that. You know, it doesn't really matter if you get it going, you don't get it going. I mean, we're past that. I
But
mean,
those are
that's
the two-
not, you know, that's not the help we're looking for.
Okay, so would you like to come back and meet with us, with staff and our fishery subcommittee? We can talk about other things, because we as a jury have been working toward those two goals, because that's what we thought was
Sure.
the consensus of the meeting.
Okay.
But if you want to add to it, we'd be glad to have you come back, meet with us. I'll schedule a meeting and we can go through everything.
Sounds good.
That'd be the best.
Does that
Thank you,
sound
Mr.
good,
Terrell. Yes.
guys?
Absolutely. And like I said, Mr. Anthony, we're here to help. By no means am I expert at anything. But I am here to listen.
Okay, I will reach out to you. I have your contact information and we'll get a
Okay.
convenient time for you. We'll meet here.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody review the agenda?
Okay, Mr. President, I have a few agenda items I'd like to touch on, and then we'll get all the staff involved to talk about their agenda items. Number 13, the legislator table. It's a $800 purchase. That's something that we typically buy every year. It is an event where 900 federal, state, and local elected officials attend annually. We talk about the needs and the priorities of Southwest Louisiana for business and for government. Typically, all of our congressional delegation attends, our Southwest legislators attend, and then most of our Southwest regionals, their local elected officials are there. It's a great networking event. Agenda item 14 and 15 is relevant to ad valorem taxes. Last month, we passed a resolution to levy our ad valorem taxes. Well, what we didn't do is when we presented it, we asked for 2.72. That's what we thought was the adjusted max mill. We did a renewal for the courthouse and jail tax, and so it's actually going to be reduced to 2.64 mills. So we're asking to rescind the original resolution from last month and then resubmit a new resolution reducing your taxes from 2.72 down to 2.64 for courthouse and jail maintenance tax. All of the rest will be exactly the same as last month. Agenda item 16, the HR director. We interviewed 6 people. We had 12 applicants. We were able to finally, with a subcommittee and recommendation, we settled on one new person. Her name is Miss Trudy Dewey, and we are asking to hire her at a classification HR director, step 20. Agenda item 18, resolution to grant authority to the current president to sign for all capital outlay grants. Last year, the president was Mr. Joe DuPont. He was originally granted authority to sign any and all relevant documentations for our capital outlay grant of 2023-24. Our president has since changed. It's now currently Mr. Ronald Nunez, so we're asking for a resolution to transfer authority from Joe DuPont to Ronald Nunez.
Katie,
Yes, sir.
on that topic, does it have to be that specific, or can we leave it vague as far as the sitting president?
Well, so we will, within the minutes, probably stipulate that it is going to be the current president to sign any and all relevant documentation. Also, something Mary and I has talked about was for all future grants, maybe designating authority to the administrator, because sometimes when you apply for a grant, it might be 3 years before you actually execute any documents. So I think moving forward for capital outlay grants and community water enrichment grants, local government, LGAP grants, we'll probably start requesting administrator authority to sign. But for this particular grant, because everything was submitted already, half with Joe DuPont's name, and because the minutes reflect current president, Joe DuPont, we felt that we needed to do a ratification to change it from Joe to Mr. Ronald. Let's see, agenda item 17, that's something that came up. I don't know if you want to touch on this one, Michael, or if you want me to cover it, but it's the Hackberry Fire boundaries.
You can cover it.
Yep. All this is just making sure that changing our geographical boundaries to be consistent with what Ward 6 boundaries are, which is the Hackberry Fire Service Area. We just want to make sure that everything's consistent, and this came up, that it wasn't consistent through our current PIL rating. So that is all we're doing. It just takes a police jury vote. Nothing has to go through the legislator for that. We do have 9B through D. We have some substantial completions on those agenda items. One is for courthouse and jail. It's ready. They're going to work through their punch list items, but both buildings will be accepted, substantially complete. We'll move them over onto our insurance policies, and they'll close out their punch list items. They'll have 45 to 90 days to close those items out. We also have Cameron Library. We're recommending to accept for substantial completion. There is a final reconciliation change order that's going to be submitted. We want to increase the days by 199 and increase the amount by $6,539. It's to cover the storefront. If you can picture the Cameron Library, that all glass building, it was on back order. There was some cost in delivery. So anyways, we needed to increase it by $6,539. And this was recommended by both our architects and our project manager, Randy Thomas. And that's all I have for you guys. If you don't have any questions about those agenda items, I'll get Ms. Kara up here to talk about the permits.
I have only one item. Item number 12. This is the Plump Lane over in.
Shane, I'll get Public Works Superintendent Shane to come up here and address and answer any questions you have.
Well, it's just, I read, so we're gonna advertise to lower the speed limit.
Yes, sir.
I reached out to the majority of the homeowners there, and they're all in favor of this, but as we advertise, any opposition, I guess, will,
Yes, sir. They can contact Miss Mary.
you have any issue with this, Shay?
No, sir. None at all.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Nunez, all public comments can be submitted to our police jury email, which is cppj@cameronpj.org.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Guerra.
Go ahead, Kara.
Do y'all have any questions about any specific one? I know Mr. Ronald Nunez had questioned me about 7C, the Venture Global LNG. That project is actually for them just to go and conduct soil borings in order to collect the characteristics of the soil for their future marsh creation areas within the Cameron Wildlife Refuge. So he did ask about the future of that marsh creation area on the pipeline routing to see if it would be consistent with CP1 or if it would change. So I did request that from them. So as soon as I get the answer, I asked them to present the route and any alternate plans that they may have. So I'll let you know as soon as I get that response. Y'all good?
Questions, yeah?
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, Mr. President, Ms. Robin Morales is going to come and present to the jury and the public the grass and weed ordinance change.
We are revising the grass and weed ordinance to include any commercial properties. Any questions?
Yeah, Miss Robin, how long has this ordinance been in effect? Not the new ordinance, but the old one. Roughly, it's been a while.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Give me a second.
And I'm just curious, cause you know, we got a lot of concerns, just wanna make sure that, you know, we're not making this up in our term. The only thing we was looking to do is if we're gonna hold the residents accountable, we wanna make sure to be able to hold the commercial businesses, cause they was exempt, is that correct, Ms. Wright?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay.
Mary thinks it's around 12.
It's just requiring everyone to.
Yeah.
It's April of 2014.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, that's all we're doing, we're not changing nothing, we're just
Correct.
trying to level the playing field to include commercial properties.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Katie? Okay, good. Anybody? Any questions? Good? Adjourn. Oh, hang on, Mr. Town, sorry.
Gentlemen, on your executive session, you have several matters that are appropriately listed. I would like, with your vote and permission, to add to, under the executive session, the Murier Fire Station, Alfred Palmer Construction. We've had some discussion prior. I have an update for y'all in executive session, so if y'all would add that to you.
Yes, sir.
Executive session, Murier Fire Station and Palmer Construction dispute.
Okay. And we're gonna move this
Yeah.
back in, voting meeting, correct?
Yeah, I'll do it as an add-on on the voting meeting, and then y'all can vote for the add-on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Town.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
I'll second it.